My name is Cora. I'm a pediatric oncology nurse. I blacked out after 31 brutal hours on Ward 5, the pediatric oncology floor at Mass General, where my little brother Theo died in my arms at 11. When my parents saw the $112,000 bill, my mother turned to the chaplain in the elevator and said loud enough for the security camera to record every word. She's always been the expensive one, just like Theo, except this time I'm not wasting another dime. They walked out and left me unconscious, still hooked to the same machines that couldn't save my brother. 6 days later, she stormed back into my room, carrying a leather portfolio and her favorite Mont Blanc pen. She didn't even look at me. She glared at the charge nurse and demanded in that cold, polished voice, "Is she awake to sign?" The man sitting beside my bed slowly turned around. My mother's face went deathly pale. And that was the exact second every single lie she had built her perfect philanthropic empire on began to burn, 2 weeks before they were supposed to name the entire wing after her. If you've ever sat in a hospital room and watched someone you grew up calling family walk past you like you were already gone, stay with me. Drop your city in the comments. I want to know who's listening tonight. This story is for the ones who learned silence too early to remember learning it. The bracelet had been in the front pocket of my scrubs, every shift for 6 years. Silicone, faded blue, the laminated cardstock ID still legible if you knew where to look. Number 80,045/09. Vance, Theodore J. I never took it out. I never showed it to anyone. I just touched it the way some people touch a rosary. Saturday, March 28th, 7 in the morning. Ward 5 at Mass General Hospital for Children, Pediatric Hematology and Oncology Service, 5th floor of the Yawkey Building. I started my shift with the bracelet in my pocket and a printed notice on the break room board that read, "Voluntary OT, flu surge in red marker." 11 of our 18 RNs were home with influenza A. The nurse manager had been begging since Wednesday. Marisol Ortiz, our charge nurse for 23 years, leaned into the doorframe of room 514 while I was setting up. "You're on doubles again, Vance. Bridget and Kelsey are out. You good?" "I'm good. Give me the assignment." She didn't move for a second. She looked at my pocket. She didn't say anything about it. She never did. Room 514 was 3 doors down from room 511. Theo's room. The room he died in on October 14th, 2009, at 11:08 in the evening. The room I had requested every time I rotated to this floor because I could not stand the idea of someone else's grief living inside the same 4 walls without anyone there to remember whose grief came first. I had chosen this floor. I had turned down 2 ICU positions at the Brigham and 1 at Children's. People assumed I worked here because I needed the schedule. People assume a lot of things about quiet daughters. In Marisol's break room cubby, my mother had left a thick envelope 2 weeks earlier. Cream cardstock, engraved. The dedication of the Vance Family Pediatric Wing, Saturday, April 18th, Copley Plaza Hotel. I read the donor list on the back page. My name was printed in italics with a number next to it. $47,000 contributed, 2021 through 2024. I had not given a single dollar. My mother, Margaret Whitcomb Vance, 58, Beacon Hill, Mass General Foundation board member for 16 years, had texted me that morning at 6:32. "Wear something neutral, darling. The lighting at the Copley is unforgiving." I kept his bracelet in my pocket, always. By 4:17 Saturday afternoon, there was a 15-vehicle pileup on I-93 northbound near Storrow Drive. 4 pediatric trauma transfers came up from the PICU. The day shift didn't end. It just kept extending in increments of 4 hours that nobody asked you to agree to out loud. Hour 26 was 9:47 Saturday night. I remember the time because I wrote it on a vitals chart, and then later, much later, I understood why that number had been waiting for me on so many clocks. I coded a 9-year-old girl at 1:50 in the morning on Sunday. She lived. Her mother kept saying thank you in a voice that wasn't quite a voice. Diane Hayes, our night charge, found me hanging IV potassium at 4 in the morning. Vance, you've been here since 7 yesterday. Tap out. After this round. Vance. After this round? My name was on the donor list. I had not given. The med room is 5W1108. The floor has a vinyl pattern of cartoon giraffes that someone in facilities ordered in 2017 and never replaced. I went in for heparin. The door clicked behind me. The fluorescent tube above the counter ticked the way old fluorescents tick. The room tilted. I sat down on the giraffes. I remember thinking it was important to sit down before I fell, because falling in a med room meant a Sharps incident report, and I did not want a Sharps incident report on my file before the gala. Then I stopped thinking. Diane found me 4 minutes later. Oh, honey, stay down. Hayes is paging trauma. The med room tilted. I went down knowing. The labs came back. Rhabdomyolysis. Mild. Plus dehydration. Plus hypoglycemia. Plus exhaustion syncope. They put me in observation for 72 hours. They paged my parents at 5:15 Sunday morning because my emergency contact card hadn't been updated since I was 22. My mother arrived at 6 in a Max Mara camel cashmere coat and a Hermes bag the color of strong coffee. My father, Theodore Vance Sr., 62, managing partner at Vance, Hartwell, and Mercer LLP, came in behind her, holding his car keys like he had not decided yet whether he was staying. Billing slid the preliminary estimate under the door at $12:30. $112,000. Trauma admission, observation, neurology consult, IV monitoring. My mother unfolded the estimate. She folded it again. She set it down on the bedside table the way you set down a dirty napkin. Margaret, just rest. Sign the paperwork when you wake fully. We'll handle it at home. I was floating somewhere 2 inches above the IV line. I tried to answer. The word came out as a dry click. My father said, Margaret, I'll bring the car around. He said it to the wall, not to me. He left first. She followed 3 minutes later. The elevator at the Yawkey South Bank dings twice before the doors close. I heard it ding once. I didn't hear the second ding because I was unconscious again by then, but the security camera in that elevator was active. And Sister Agnes Kavanaugh, Sister of Charity of St. Vincent de Paul, MGH Chaplain Emerita from 1979 to 2014, age 78, was riding down with her after a visit to an old patient's family on the 8th floor. My mother didn't recognize her. My mother saw a small woman in a gray cardigan with a wooden olive wood cross on a thin chain and assumed the elevator was empty enough. I would learn what she said 5 days later, when Diane handed me a USB drive in the staff bathroom and stood guard at the door while I watched it on a borrowed laptop. I would not be the same person on the other side of those 41 seconds. If you have ever been the child whose body costs too much, this story is for you. If anyone has ever made you feel like your existence was a line item on a balance sheet, stay with me. We're going somewhere. Day 1 in the hospital, nobody signed the visitor log. Day 2, nobody signed the visitor log. The hospital social worker, a tired woman named Patricia with a lanyard full of saint medals, sat at the foot of my bed for 12 minutes. Any family we should contact? They know. Okay, honey, okay. She left me a pamphlet about post-discharge resources. I folded it into thirds and slid it into the drawer under the phone. The drawer where someone had once left a Gideon Bible and never claimed it back. No one signed the visitor log, day 2. Wednesday afternoon, day 3, Marisol came in holding the badge holder I'd dropped in the med room when I went down, the silicone lanyard, the plastic sleeve with a faded family sticker, and the laminated card behind it. Pocket said hi to laundry. I rescued it. She set it on the rolling table. She didn't sit. She didn't make small talk. She tucked something else under the badge holder before she stepped back. A second piece of laminated cardstock, the size of a credit card, with hospital-printed black lettering. Vance, Theodore J. Dob March 22nd, 1998, MGHFCPEDSHEM/ONC. Theo's admission badge. the one they hand to family members of inpatients. The one I'd given Marisol on October 14th, 2009, when transport was taking him down to the morgue, and I was 13 and could not figure out how to put my hand back in my pocket. She had kept it for 17 years. "You were 13, sweetheart. You handed it to me by the stairwell. I kept meaning to find you. Then time happens. I'm sorry I waited." I didn't move. "You're allowed to fall, sweetheart. You're allowed to not catch yourself." She left the badge on the table. She didn't say anything else. There is a cedar memory box on the family lounge shelf with Theo's name on it, hand-lettered, dated 1998/2009. The hospital keeps the box because parents want to know their children's names still live somewhere. My mother had never opened it. I knew, because the latch sticks, and I had repaired the latch myself in 2020 with superglue from the supply closet. Marisol had kept his bracelet for 17 years. He arrived Wednesday evening. He knocked twice and stood in the doorway in a gray blazer with no tie, a folder under his arm. Older, 70s, clean-shaven, a quiet face, holding a paper cup from Tata Bakery like he'd been somewhere else first. "Wilson, I'm a relative of a former patient of yours. I won't take much time." I recognized him before he finished the sentence. Owen, 4 years old. Neuroblastoma. 2023, 14-month treatment. Full remission. His grandfather had visited every Tuesday and Friday for 9 months. He had never introduced himself by anything other than his first name then either. "Owen is well," I said. "He is. He talks about you." He sat down in the vinyl chair beside the bed. He opened a leather folder. He did not show me what was in it. He read for 40 minutes and left without saying goodbye. He came back Thursday. He came back Friday. By Friday, I had stopped asking him why. He said his name was Wilson. He did not say Brennan. Friday morning, 9:20, I walked to the staff kitchen for water because Marisol had pulled the IV line and told me to hydrate orally. The hallway turned at the water fountain that had been broken since February. The fluorescent above the corner flickered the way it always flickered. My mother was standing 18 feet away with her back to me, phone pressed to her ear. "Adam, just get it done. Even Theo signed papers near the end. She'll sign too. She's tired." I stopped walking. I stood with my back against the wall, the way you stand, when you've just heard glass break in another room and you're trying to figure out which room. Theo had been 11. Theo had not signed anything. Theo had asked me to read him Chapter 40 of Charlotte's Web on the morning he died, and then he had asked me not to read the part where Charlotte dies. So I had read the chapter before that one again, twice. He had not signed papers. He had not signed his name to anything in his life because cursive had not been part of 4th grade at Brimmer and May yet, and he died before he learned it. I went back to room 514. I closed the door. I took the folder out of my scrub pocket, where I had kept it for 9 days. The folder I had been adding to for 4 years. The folder I had never given a name to, because giving it a name would have meant admitting I knew. "Even Theo," she said. Theo had been 11. Saturday morning, April 4th, 10:14. The clock above the door read the time clearly, because Wilson Brennan looked up at it once and then looked down at his folder again, the way a man might check a kitchen timer. The door opened. My mother walked in first. Carolina Herrera Bordeaux dress under the Max Mara coat, pearls at her throat, hair set the way only the Newberry Street salon sets it. Behind her, Adam Halsey, corporate counsel, 47, recently divorced, holding a slim Smithson portfolio in oxblood leather. Behind him, a notary public in a polyester blazer holding a stamp. My mother did not look at me. She glared at Diane, who had stepped in behind the notary with her arms folded. "Is she awake to sign?" Diane didn't blink. "Ma'am, you'll need to address the patient directly." My mother ignored her. Adam Halsey set the portfolio on the rolling table. 14 tabbed pages. A Montblanc Meisterstück 149 resting across the top page, gold nib uncapped. The man in the vinyl chair beside my bed closed his folder. He set it down on the seat. He stood up slowly, the way older men stand who know their knees. He turned around. My mother saw his profile first, then his full face. The color left her face the way water leaves a sink. Fast, then completely. The Birkin slipped 1 inch in her hand. She caught it without looking. Adam Halsey put the portfolio down. He had not put it down a second earlier. He put it down now. He took a step backward, and his right hand went to his wristwatch. The notary lowered the stamp. Nobody spoke for 7 seconds. I counted. "Margaret," Wilson said. She did not breathe out for what felt like minutes. I sat up. The IV was still in my left hand. The pulse oximeter on my finger read 71. I had not spoken to my mother in 6 days. "You may go now." 4 words. I did not raise my voice. I did not need to. She tried to speak. Wilson lifted the folder 6 inches off the chair. She closed her mouth. Adam Halsey took the notary by the elbow and walked her into the hallway. My mother stayed for 5 more seconds. Her eyes moved between Wilson and the Mont Blanc on the table. She did not look at me once. "Wilson," she said very quietly on her way out. He did not answer. Sister Agnes was at the chaplaincy office on the 5th floor that morning, dropping off a rosary for another family. She told me later that she watched my father stand by the elevators in the South Bank for 3 minutes before he pressed the button for the garage instead of the button for floor 5. He never came up. He left the Mont Blanc on the table. "You may go now," I said. She went. For the first time in my life, I was the one who told her where the door was. I was discharged Sunday morning, April 5th. I went home to my apartment on Mission Hill. 3rd floor walk-up, kitchen the size of a coat closet, IKEA Leerham table I had built from a flat box 4 years earlier. I did not go to Brookline. Wilson came over Tuesday evening, April 14th. He brought 2 people with him. "Cora, this is Naomi Whitfield. She'll be representing you. This is David Sosa. He's been investigating since November." Naomi was 50, short hair, a leather satchel that looked older than I was. Sosa wore a windbreaker and had the kind of forearms that belonged to a former mechanic. They sat at my kitchen table. I made coffee. I'd been making coffee at that table for 4 years, and I had never had 3 people sit at it at once. Wilson laid out the folder. 43 corporate filings, tax forms, trust distribution requests, wire authorizations, each one with my signature in slightly different cursive. Each one with a date, each one with a dollar figure in a column on the right. I pulled a J. Crew shoebox out from under my bed. Inside, it was 4 years of photocopies I'd been making at the FedEx on Tremont Street. Late at night, when I'd visit my parents and find paperwork left on the dining room sideboard. When a check I hadn't written cleared in an account I hadn't opened. When something didn't sit right and I needed to look at it later without anyone watching me look. I had never given the box a name. Wilson lifted the lid. He didn't comment. He just started laying my photocopies next to his folder on the table, lining up the dates. "Cora, you weren't waiting. You were preparing. You just didn't know." My hands shook, only once. They settled. I stopped sleeping the way grieving people sleep. Theo Memorial Trust had been worth $2.1 million in 2015. 43 documents had moved $1.46 million from that trust into something called the Margaret Vance Family Charitable Account at a private bank in Wellesley. The remaining $640,000 was scheduled to underwrite the naming gift for the Vance Family Pediatric Wing on April 18th. Wilson tapped one document with his index finger. This one, November 4th, 23. Owen's remission party at the foundation. Your mother had you sign a thank you card to the donors. Your signature on the card matched the signature on a wire authorization that cleared the next morning. I noticed because I was sitting across from you when you signed the card. He let that sit on the table. I have been making phone calls since. 43 signatures. I had given none of them. Naomi opened her laptop. Dr. Iris Hammond came on a Zoom call from her Newberry Street office. Board-certified handwriting examiner, ABFDE, 22 years of forensic experience. She had reviewed all 43 documents against 22 known samples of my handwriting. NCLEX exam ID, Massachusetts Board of Nursing License application, school records, Hospital onboarding forms. 38 of 43 are forgeries. 4 are inconclusive. 1 is authentic. Which one? A thank you card. Mother's Day, 2022. I sat with that for a minute. She used my gratitude as the master copy? She did. The trace evidence is consistent across the 38 forged documents. She practiced on the gratitude sample. She got better over time. Naomi closed the laptop. 4 years of photocopies finally had names. Wilson opened a second folder. He laid a Boston Globe Sunday-style page on the table. October 18th, 2009. A society piece on the Beacon Hill Children's Foundation 25th Anniversary Gala. A photograph on page 3. Credit Mark Wilkinson. Metadata timestamp 9:47 p.m. October 14th, 2009. My mother and my father at the Copley Plaza Ballroom. Champagne flutes, smiling. Theo died at 11:08 that same night. Wilson slid another sheet across the table. A Foundation check-in record, hand-typed, retained in their permanent archive. Margaret Whitcomb, Vance. Signed in 7:14 p.m., signed out 11:32 p.m. She had been on the dance floor when my brother stopped breathing. She had been on the dance floor for 24 minutes after my brother stopped breathing. She wasn't there, Cora. I'm sorry. I needed you to know before what comes next. My ears rang, not loudly, just enough that I noticed. She had been at the Copley. I had not known. There was a knock at my door. Wilson didn't get up. He nodded at Naomi. Sister Agnes stepped in. She was wearing the same gray cardigan she always wore, holding a small black spiral notebook with a faded cover and a piece of folded linen against the cover. She sat on the chair beside me. She put the notebook on the table between us. The pages were ink-fade and dog-eared, and the kind of soft that paper gets when it's been opened more than once a year for a long time. She opened to a page marked with a paperclip. October 14th, 2009. Her handwriting. A working chaplain's notes, kept private the way pastoral records are kept private, retained in her own files at the Marion Center in Brookline since her retirement. October 14th, 2009. Vance T., room 511. Declined morphine increase 6:40 p.m. Asked for sister continuously. Mother absent the entire shift. Father absent. Sister Cora, 13. At bedside 6 p.m. through end. Cora and I prayed at 10:52 p.m. T. Went home at 11:08 p.m. Cora stayed until 1 a.m. She unfolded the linen. A handkerchief. White, hand-stitched, a small blue star in the corner. The date worked in tiny letters beside the star. October 14th, 2009 AK. This was on his pillow. I kept it. I knew you'd come back for it. I held the handkerchief in my left hand. My right hand was flat on the table. I did not cry. The handkerchief was older than I was. He asked for you. He asked the whole time. He asked for me. He asked the whole time. Wilson opened a laptop. Mass General's official YouTube channel. Theo Vance Memorial Lecture, October 16th, 2024. Posted by the Mass General Foundation Communications Team. Public. He skipped to timestamp 1422. My mother was at the podium in the Wong lobby. 600 Boston charity faces and folding chairs. She held the microphone the way she always held microphones, like it had been handed to her at birth. Even when grief tempts us to silence, we honor our dead by ensuring their gifts continue to give. Standing ovation. The audio caught the sound of her own quiet exhale before she stepped back from the lectern. Wilson tabbed to a wire ledger. 11:47 p.m. October 16th, 2024. Same day. $84,000 moved from Theo Memorial Trust to Margaret Vance Family Charitable Account. The authorization signature was mine. Or close enough to mine. She had said it on tape, with applause. I was not a daughter in that room anymore. I was a witness. Wednesday, April 15th. I went back to the kitchen table. I did not get up except to make coffee and to walk to the bathroom. Naomi worked her laptop. Sosa worked his phone. Wilson took notes by hand on yellow legal paper. Cora, we need to talk about your father. I had been waiting for this. I had not yet decided whether I had been waiting for it, because I was hoping for it, or because I was bracing for it. Sosa slid a printout across the table. March 17th, 2018. Internal Memorandum, Vance, Hartwell, and Mercer LLP letterhead from Theodore Vance Sr. 2. Managing Partner Committee. Re. Theo Memorial Trust. Irregularities noted in distribution patterns. Advise no third-party disclosure pending internal review. His signature at the bottom. Initials in 2 places. 8 years. He had known for 8 years. I called him. He answered on the second ring. He had been waiting for the call. Cora, come to the apartment. Tonight, 7. He came at 7:14. He stood in the doorway. He did not step inside. I handed him the printout. He looked at it. He looked at his shoes for 23 seconds. I counted because that was the only thing I could do with my body that did not involve breaking it. Margaret was very persuasive at the time. He turned around. He walked to the elevator. The doors of that elevator have closed on 1,000 tenants over 100 years, and they always close slowly because the building is old. I stood in the doorway. I counted 14 seconds from the moment the doors closed until I exhaled. He did not turn around in the elevator. I had no parent to save. I stopped looking for one. If you've ever realized your father chose his partnership over you, drop one word in the comments. Just one. I want to see how many of us there are. We're closer than we knew. Thursday, April 16th. Adam Halsey met us at his office on State Street, 24th floor, view of the harbor. Wilson had brokered the meeting through a friend in the Massachusetts Bar Association, a former partner at Foley Hoag who still owed Wilson a favor from 1996. Assistant U.S. Attorney Maeve O'Connell sat across from Halsey. Public Corruption Unit, District of Massachusetts, 11 years in the office. She did not introduce herself with rank. She introduced herself with a manila folder she set in the middle of his desk and a single sentence. Mr. Halsey, I would like to discuss the option of a non-target letter. He sat with that for 11 minutes. He looked at his Rolex date just 3 times. He stood up without speaking. He walked out of his own office. He came back 90 minutes later with a silver MacBook, 2 USB drives, and a PDF of an email chain dated 2018 through 2025. I can no longer represent the family in any deposition context. He looked at his watch one more time. He had 2 hours before the close of business in the Eastern District for the day's filing. That's a confession, Cora? Wilson said when we were back in the car. The bar will read it that way. He looked at his watch. He had 2 hours. Friday afternoon, April 17th. My mother called Eleanor Cabot, Nora, board chair of the Mass General Foundation for 11 years, her best friend from Wellesley class of 78. She called from her kitchen island in Brookline. She wanted to confirm that the seating chart for the gala had been adjusted because, as she put it, Cora is taking a stress leave, you understand? The work is so demanding. Nora was at the Cabot Family Foundation offices at 28 State Street. She was holding a phone in her left hand and a text from Wilson in her right. Asset preservation order serves tomorrow at noon. Indictment unsealed at 3. Be in the ballroom at 7. Nora finished the sentence she was speaking to my mother. Excuse me one moment, Margaret. I'll call you back. She did not call back. My mother did not notice. She had been waiting too long for that gala. She set down the phone and went into the dining room to inspect the centerpieces the florist had brought over for approval. She did not know I had already arrived. I went into the hospital Friday evening to pick up paychecks I didn't need. Marisol pulled me into the break room without speaking. She closed the door. She took Theo's silicone bracelet out of my scrub pocket. It had been in that pocket for 6 years. She took the laminated admission badge she had given me 2 weeks earlier. She held both in her palm. She unfolded the lapel of the gray Theory blazer hanging over the back of the chair. The blazer I had bought 6 years ago for an interview and worn maybe 4 times. She tucked the bracelet and the badge into the inside pocket. She zipped the pocket closed. She kissed my forehead. Bring them back to me Monday, sweetheart, whichever Monday that turns out to be. She walked out before I could answer. Marisol put it in my pocket without speaking. Couple Friday night. I stood in front of my closet. The Theory dress my mother had sent 3 weeks earlier hung in dry cleaning plastic on the left side. Vestal navy, $895 retail. The kind of dress that photographs well in a society column. I did not touch the dress. I pulled my Mass General scrubs out of the dryer. Pediatric Oncology, dark blue. Hospital issue cotton. I ironed them on the back of the kitchen table. I clipped on my badge. The plastic name tag read C. Vance, RN MGHFCHEM/ONC. I looked at myself in the mirror over the bathroom sink for 4 seconds. I work here. I slept 6 hours. I had not slept in 19 days. Saturday, April 18th, 7:46 p.m. The Copley Plaza Hotel Oval Room. 450 guests, $5,000 a seat, Waterford chandeliers, gold-plated podium, a printed program on every table that listed the order of the evening in cursive font. Lobster bisque, then halibut, then a name reveal at 8:30. My mother sat at table 1 in Carolina Herrera, Bordeaux. The Mikimoto pearls her great-grandmother had worn to the Boston Brahmin debutante balls in 1909. Her best smile, the one she practiced in the bathroom mirror at the Wellesley Club for 3 minutes before she went into any room. I walked through the main entrance. The maitre d' checked a clipboard. Cora Vance, guest of Judge Wilson Brennan. Table 14, this way. He waved me through, the gray blazer over the dark blue scrubs, the hospital ID clipped to the lapel, the silicone bracelet and the laminated badge in the inside pocket weighed against my sternum that nobody else in the room could see. 45 seconds in, the woman at table 8 noticed me. Then the man behind her. Then the table next to them. Champagne flutes lowered. Conversation didn't stop so much as slip a half step out of rhythm. My mother saw me from 30 feet. Her right hand found the edge of her chair. 450 people stopped chewing at once. 8:15 p.m. The Mass General Foundation president took the podium and read 3 sentences I do not remember now, because my eyes were on a single line in the printed program every table had been given. Theo Memorial Reflection. Remarks by Cora Vance, RN. My mother had not removed my name from the program. Removing it would have raised questions she could not answer in the week before a dedication. She had counted on me not showing up. 8:18 p.m. The foundation president looked at his card, looked up, hesitated for 1/2 of 1 second, and read my name. I walked from table 14 to the podium. I did not look at table 1. I did not look at the trauma team standing at the back of the ballroom in dark blue scrubs. Diane, 2 night techs, a resident, Marisol in the center in her gray cardigan, because if I had looked at them, I would not have been able to do what I had walked 28 feet to do. I reached the lectern. I unzipped the inside pocket of the blazer. I set Theo's silicone bracelet on the wood next to the microphone. I set his laminated admission badge next to the bracelet, embossing facing up. 3 iPhone cameras lifted at table 6. A Globe photographer named Jeff Wahlberg lowered the lens cap on his Nikon at the back of the room. I took the microphone off the stand. My brother Theodore Vance died in room 511 of Ward 5 on October 14th, 2009. A pause. I did not look up. My mother was not in that room. She was here in this hotel, signed in to the Beacon Hill Children's Foundation Gala from 7:14 p.m. until 11:32. A pause. 43 documents bearing my forged signature have moved $1.46 million from his memorial trust into accounts she controls. I let the silence sit for 3 seconds. I turned my head toward a table 14. Judge Brennan. I said 3 sentences, then I said his name. He stood up. He was wearing the same gray blazer with no tie that he had worn in my hospital room 2 weeks earlier. He walked to the podium without hurrying. He stood beside me. He opened a folder he had been carrying tucked under one arm. He did not need a microphone. He had spent 21 years on the federal bench, and his voice carried whether you wanted it to or not. My name is Wilson Brennan. I served as United States District Judge for the District of Massachusetts from 1998 until 2019. The room was quiet enough that the chandeliers seemed to make a sound. A sealed indictment in the case of United States versus Margaret Whitcomb. Vance was unsealed at 3 o'clock this afternoon. The charges are wire fraud, aggravated identity theft, and forgery of federally regulated trust instruments. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, Boston Field Office, has been investigating this matter since November of last year. 2 agents are observing this evening, seated at tables 14 and 27. A federal asset preservation order was served on the Brookline residence at noon today. A man at table 14 stood up. Mid-40s, suit jacket, no tie. He opened the lapel of his jacket to show a blue lanyard with a federal badge. A woman at table 27 stood up. Late 30s, navy dress, kitten heels. She opened the clasp of her clutch and lifted a second federal badge. He said, "Indictment was unsealed at 3 this afternoon." Nora Cabot stood up at table 1. She set her cloth napkin down beside her plate. She did not lift the microphone in front of her because she did not need to. 3 decades of board chairmanship at the largest charitable foundation in New England had taught her to project across a banquet hall. "Margaret, you need to leave the room now." My mother sat for 3 seconds. She stood up. She did not look at me. She did not look at my father, who was still sitting at table 1, hands flat on the tablecloth, eyes on the centerpiece. She walked to the side door of the ballroom. The door staff used to bring out the salad course, and she went through it. The trauma team at the back of the room did not move. They did not have to. They had been there the whole time. The chair stood. Then, everyone stood with her. It took 3 sentences and 20 years. I'd like to ask you something. Not for the algorithm. For me, if you had been standing at that podium, 27 years of silence behind you, 3 sentences in front of you, would you have read the 3rd sentence, or would you have stopped at 2? Tell me in 1 line. I read every single one of these. Sunday morning, April 19th. The Boston Globe ran the story on page A1, above the fold, byline Caroline Sullivan, 22-year veteran of the Metro desk. Headline, Boston philanthropist charged with forgery after daughter's public testimony. The reporter quoted 3 of my sentences. She quoted 3 of Wilson's. She quoted 1 line from Nora Cabot, off the record at first, on the record by the 7 a.m. editorial meeting. Philanthropy depends on the legitimacy of its sources. I gave Caroline 1 interview. 42 minutes, on the record, at the Toddy on Charles Street, the morning the story ran. I did not give a second. Tuesday, April 21st, 8:30 a.m. The portrait of my mother that had hung in the donor wall of the Mass General Atrium since 2017 was removed by facilities. 2 men with a stepladder, a soft cloth, a wooden crate. I walked past them on my way to my 9 a.m. shift on Ward 5. I did not stop, my badge clipped to the lapel of my scrubs. The space where her portrait had been was the color of cream. The portrait came down on a Tuesday morning. She made initial appearance at federal court in Boston that same Tuesday at 1 p.m. $2 million bond. Passport surrendered, restricted to the Brookline residence. My father stepped down quietly from his managing partner role at Vance, Hartwell and Mercer LLP on Wednesday. Kept his equity, kept his office, lost the title. Massachusetts Bar disciplinary review pending. No determination yet. He attended none of the proceedings I attended. He sent a card to my apartment that I did not open and did not throw out. My mother resigned from 6 boards in 4 days. Mass General Foundation, Beacon Hill Children's Foundation, the Boston Symphony Overseers, the Wellesley Class of '78 Reunion Committee, the St. Botolph Club, and the Vincent Club. Each resignation letter was 3 sentences long. I read them on the foundation websites because I needed to see her handwriting one more time. She did not call me. She did not write to me. I had told her where the door was. Friday afternoon, April 24th. Owen Brennan Hayes came to Ward 5 for his annual 3-year post-remission scan. He was 7 now. He was wearing a Bruins jersey and high-top sneakers that lit up at the heel. He brought me a card. Folded construction paper, purple crayon, the careful handwriting of a child who is still proud of his lowercase letters. Nurse Cora is brave. Grandpa Wilson said you might need a card today. I drew you a stethoscope. It's purple because purple is brave. I taped it to the inside of my locker. I did not say much. I touched the top of his head once. His mother, Wilson's daughter, Catherine, squeezed my hand once and let go. Wednesday, April 29th, the Mass General Foundation Board met in emergency session. Nora Cabot chaired. 11 members present, none absent. They voted 11-0 to establish the Theo Vance Pediatric Oncology Nursing Fellowship, funded by the $1.46 million recovered from the trust, supplemented by a $500,000 match from the Brennan Family Foundation. The board offered me the role of founding clinical coordinator. It matched my 8 years of bedside experience. It was not a director's chair. I did not want a director's chair. I had 30 days to decide. I decided in 4 minutes. Owen brought the Brave card. I kept it. Thursday, April 30th, the last day of the month. The fellowship office had been assigned at my request. Room 511, Yawkey 5th floor. Renovated administrative space, the room my brother had died in 20 years and 7 months earlier. Facilities had repainted the walls a soft pale gray. The window still looked out at the same patch of Charles River it had looked at when Theo was 11 years old, and asking me to read him a chapter that did not exist. I hung a plaque on the wall opposite the window. Cambridge framer, walnut wood, 12 inches by 18, museum glass, 4 objects mounted on a cream linen mat. Theo's silicone bracelet, number 80,045/09. Vance, Theodore J. His laminated admission badge, MGHFC PEDS hem/1UPWILE. Sister Agnes's hand-stitched handkerchief, the small blue star, the date, and a crayon drawing Theo had made the summer before he was diagnosed. The corner read in his 8-year-old handwriting, Cora and Theo at Plum Island, summer. I did not keep the bracelet in my pocket anymore. I did not need to. In the morning, before I started shift, I touched my fingers to the museum glass. The walnut frame had warmed in the sun that came in the east-facing window. The wood was warmer than the glass. I felt the grain through the lacquer. I picked up my coffee. I walked into the hallway. Marisol was at the charge desk. She tapped the frame of my office door as she walked past. "You good, Vance?" "I'm good." The bracelet sits behind glass. I kept walking. Some inheritances are paperwork, some are silence. Mine was a brother who asked for me the whole time, and a folder I built without naming, and a woman I am still becoming. I do not know if my mother will write to me from wherever she ends up. I do not know if my father will retire quietly or be made to retire loudly. I know what I have, which is more than I had a month ago. I know my brother's name lives on a door I walk through every morning, and I know who I was when I walked through it the first time, and I know who I am walking through it now. The expensive one survived. I was good. This time, I meant it.